So it's not even one Diddy per page. So what are we?
That's, yo, that's wow. Yo,
And
imagine
you
what
know why
they.
it's not?
Yeah, so Diddy has been named 70 times in the Tupac deletion documents. Could Diddy have been connected to the Tupac Shakur murder? According to Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, Diddy offered him $1 million to move the legendary rapper off the scene. And Davis is now facing a trial, and all these documents are now showing that there might be a clear indication that at least the prosecutor is using that as something they were going to use during this trial. And your friends or your foes are usually closer than you think. RJ.
Yeah, that's true. Now, as a lawyer, sometimes I'm a bit skeptic. Well, as a lawyer and a free thinker, I have to say, probably more because I'm a free thinker than because I'm a lawyer. When I see headlines like this, Diddy named 77 times in Tupac deletion documents, I always try to think of what Diddy would say as a defendant or as a co-defendant, or what his lawyers would say, how they would react. And they would probably say, it all depends on what you look for in the document. Because if there are transcripts, right, and you go through them, does it only say Diddy or does it say no Diddy? Because it can be that no Diddy was said 77 times and that they decided for clickbait to remove the no and only talk about the Diddy. I'm just saying, KR, I haven't seen the document, I haven't read it, but things to take into account.
Yeah, Control F or Command F, depending on which OS system you're
Device,
using.
yeah.
Yeah, but this is a case that's been captivating the world for decades now, ever since Tupac has been hit in the 1996 drive-by shooting in LA, Las Vegas, by the way, Las Vegas. Now Keefe D is well, he's in a kerfuffle, and he pleads not guilty to first-degree deletion. As he's the only person alive, he's kind of in a situation where how they're gonna prove this, that he was the one there, he was the one who actually pulled the trigger. He's been held ever since, I think it's since September last year in jail, in the Las Vegas jail. We've talked about him last show or 2 shows ago, where WAC 100 was trying to release him. Well, help him, give him a helping hand, as WAC called him a pillar of the community. Which community, I'm not sure, but he's a pillar or something apparently. And the prosecutor is now trying to implicate not only Keefe, but trying to put Sean Diddy Combs as well in this case.
Yeah, but I think he did mention it before, right? He at least insinuated that there was a connection there. Actually, that's how the Diddy fall down started. So for us, the public, it started with Keefe D, and there was this whole thing going on there, and then it died down. That's on the West Coast, and on the East Coast, you had the whole Cassie case. So the case dropped afterwards, which again brought rise to Diddy again. All the attention started going to Diddy, and that hasn't stopped. But it's something that has been insinuated, and I can recall as a teenager. So when I was a teenager, this was already being mentioned as a possibility. But back then there wasn't any proof, so it was more conspiracy. But it's not something that. So it's something that has been floating around for a long while. The only thing is when the name gets dropped 77 times, strike 35, let's say strike 30, 30, 35 to 40, which could have been no Diddy's, you are still left with 27 times that Diddy is being mentioned in a case that has to do with Tupac's deletion.
By the way, it's a 280-page document.
So it's not even one Diddy per page. So what are we?
Yo, that's wow. Yo, imagine.
And you know why it's not, and you know why it's only, you know why it's not, why it's like 77 times KR. It's not like the same amount, because the pages are stuck together. That's why. So
no Diddy. You
No
should have
Diddy.
said no Diddy behind that. It wasn't Diddy, wasn't me.
no Diddy.
No, but let's break this stuff down. But in 2019, in an interview with Las Vegas police, Keefe suggested that Diddy paid Eric Von Martin $1 million for the deletion, and even offered to arrange a phone call with the driver, back then still alive Terrence Brown. And despite these allegations, it was never he was never officially a suspect in this case, which is understandable because he wasn't there physically. But in the recent court filings, they are also referencing a 2017 BET documentary interview where Davis again hinted that he was involved in this case, and that's what the Clark County prosecutors are using in this. And also to add more complexity, Greg Kading, a retired LAPD, wrote a book about these the Tupac and Biggie deletions, and they are using parts of that as well as new evidence. But Keefe has been criticizing these materials, claiming these are improperly stored and used. Do you think this is they will be? My question is why? Usually, prosecutors trying to go for the big fish. In this case, if you look at the whole spectrum, Keefe is not a big fish at all.
Nah, he's not a big fish.
The only big fish is this one.
Yeah, but that's like separately, right? So Keefe is a big fish in the sense that he's not the biggest fish. Well, he's the only fish that was there. Now I'm just gonna throw the analogy out the window. But he's the only fish because he's the only one alive that was in the car that evening. So they have to approach him because he's the only one that was there, and he went on various platforms to talk about it. So you can't not prosecute him, right? You can't not prosecute him, especially because the whole Tupac deletion is something that has been bothering the hip hop and rap community for a long time. People have been talking about it for a long time. Some people saying that Tupac ain't dead, that he's living somewhere in Vermont. But
Cuba with Castro.
Cuba, yeah, sure, yeah. So I think for closure's sake, they need to prosecute Keefe. However, not to say that if there is a link, that they won't try to go after Diddy as well. But the question then is whether or not you can find enough evidence. Remember, a lot of years have gone by. During that time, there wasn't WhatsApp, there wasn't Facebook. It was like a different time. So how are you gonna reconstruct it if it happened via phone? Via I doubt that it happened through email, if it happened at all. But if it's true that Diddy has or had a role in the deletion, how are you going to prove it? So you need to be realistic as well as the prosecutor, and also don't forget there are various. So Diddy is probably being investigated by various law enforcement departments, so organizations. So all the alphabet, the alphabet boys, from the F's to the C's to the N's to the everything in between. Who knows how far? Could be also prosecuted. He might also be prosecuted by, so criminally prosecuted by DAs either in New York or in Vegas. It's a very complex case. So it's not. I don't think it's not that there's one organization that is tasked with all these responsibilities. There are various organizations, and as an organization, as a criminal, as a prosecutor, for example, you're tasked with the criminal prosecution. You are not involved with what Diddy did in New York in a different realm, because maybe that's not necessarily criminal law, or what is being, or even if it is criminal law, it's in a different jurisdiction. It's not in your own jurisdiction. So yeah, that's those are my 2 cents.